Once upon a time, in the heart of Port Harcourt, there lived a woman named Ijeoma. She was 27 years old, tall, beautiful and dark-skinned, with the kind of beauty that made men slow down their cars and women secretly feel insecure. Her skin glowed like polished bronze. But despite her beauty, one thing was missing: her hygiene. Ijeoma had a very poor hygiene. She was so dirty that her cooking pots could go weeks without being washed, and she would wear the same underwear for an entire week before changing it. Most times, when she came back from work, she would sleep in her work clothes and wake up the next morning still wearing them. But despite all, she was still beautiful. Under the sun, her makeup was always on point, and her nails were done in the trendiest styles, sparkled as if they had their own spotlight. Every morning, she stepped out of her compound, dressed like she was heading for a red carpet event, always clean, stylish and fresh. People in the neighborhood called her Madam Slay Queen. She lived in a 2-bedroom apartment inside a fenced compound. Nobody ever visited her at home, not friends, not family, not even her suitors. But nobody questioned that. After all, Ijeoma was a private person. She smiled at neighbors, waved politely, and left for work in her black Toyota Corolla, a clean car she cleaned every 2 days, even though the inside smelled faintly of perfume mixed with something rotten. What no one knew was that behind all the glitter, Ijeoma lived in fields, and her truth was darker than anyone could imagine. The secrets began to show slowly. It was one Tuesday morning. Mama Nkechi, the elderly woman living in the flat beside hers, came out to sweep the compound and noticed the smell again. It wasn't the usual sewage smell. It was strong, like rotten food mixed with burnt oil. She wrinkled her nose and shook her head. I don't talk am before. One day, this fine girl will kill all of us. How can a young girl's house smell so bad like dead rats? She spat out. Ijeoma's front door creaked open. She stepped out wearing a white blazer over tight black jeans, her long legs shining with oil, and her wig bouncing like the ones in TV adverts. She smiled at Mama Nkechi. "Good morning, ma," she said sweetly. But behind that sweet voice, her heart was pounding, because inside her apartment, nothing was the way it looked on the outside. Inside Ijeoma's flat was a world of chaos. Her living room was dusty. A single plastic fan blew hot air at the corner, surrounded by used tissues, dirty underwear, and leftover food cartons. The TV screen was stained with fingerprints and oily marks. Her rug hadn't been washed in 2 years. Her kitchen was worse. The sink was full of unwashed pots and burnt rice and dried ogbono soup stuck to the sides. Cockroaches danced freely. A pot of jollof rice from last week was still standing on the cooker, covered in mold. She didn't cook often, and when she did, she used the same pot every time, without washing it. Even her bathroom told a sad story. The toilet seat had a brown ring around it, and the sink was plugged. Her mirror had never seen water or sponge in its life. Yet every morning, she powdered her face, sprayed perfume on her body, and walked like a queen. On the outside, she was a dream. On the inside, she was decaying. Ijeoma had grown up in Enugu, in a house where survival was the only goal. Her father was a taxi driver. Her mother was a petty trader. They never had time to teach her cleanliness. The house was always cluttered, and chores were a punishment, not a habit. At 16, she ran away from home after her father beat her with a belt soaked in water for breaking a ceramic plate. She moved to Port Harcourt with a distant cousin who introduced her to city life. Makeup, Instagram, men, fast money. But cleanliness, nobody cared about that, so she never learned. She simply learned to cover dates with glitter. But one day, her secret started leaking. It started with a man named Ebuka, tall, dark, and a successful business analyst. He met her on Instagram. Her pictures were heavenly. He messaged her. She responded, and they met at a lounge in GRA. Sparks flew. They talked, discussed, and they really matched each other's energy. After 2 months, he was in love. "You're the kind of woman I want to marry," Emeka said one night as they sat in his car, parked under a street light. Emeka said to her, "You're so clean, beautiful, elegant. You're my dream. I can't wait to make you my wife." Ijeoma smiled, but her heart was heavy. Emeka was different. He was not like the others who only wanted her body. He wanted a future with her and she too had fallen in love with him. But the fear was her insecurities and her dirty lifestyle. How was she going to keep Emeka from visiting her house? The thought filled her heart and she became lost in her own thoughts. Just then, Emeka called her. She immediately startled. "What are you thinking about?" Emeka asked curiously. But she said nothing and pretended like everything was fine. After Emeka left that evening, she felt so unhappy. The thought of cleaning her house was a nightmare. It haunted her. How can I clean such a big house all by myself, with no help? A 2-bedroom with huge sitting room. No, I can't. I'll find a way to distract Emeka so he never thinks of visiting, she added, smiling. But then she knew she needed a plan. That night, Emeka called her. He told her he wanted to visit her house. "Let me come see you this weekend," Emeka said over the phone. Ijeoma froze. No, my flat is under renovation," she lied. "I'm changing my floor tiles. Everywhere is messy." "No problem," Emeka replied. "When it's ready, let me know. I just want to know where my woman lives." She laughed nervously, but fear was creeping in because she knew her home wasn't a place to show love. It was a place of shame. Things got worse when her gas finished. She didn't refill it for weeks. Instead, she ordered food and stacked the plastic plates in the corners of her room. One day, her bathroom drain clogged and water started pooling on the floor. She ignored it and that made her house smell so bad. Yet, she wasn't ready to do anything. She enjoyed the smell. The smell gave her a relaxed feeling. Rats began to show up and cockroaches multiplied. Still, she wore Chanel body spray and MAC foundation and polished filtered selfies. But her soul, it was cracking. Until one Saturday, everything shattered. Emeka surprised her. He showed up at her gate with a bouquet of roses and a smile. She was not expecting him. "Ijeoma, open now. Your gate man said you are around," Emeka yelled after knocking on her door for a few minutes. She panicked. Her house was a disaster. She ran around, trying to hide clothes and plates, but it was too late. Emeka entered. He stopped at the door. His smile faded. He stepped inside slowly, his face twisted in disbelief. The smell hit him first, raw, sharp and thick. He saw the clothes on the floor, the leftover noodle on the chair, the cockroach crawling on the wall. His voice cracked. "This is where you live?" Ijeoma stood frozen. Her lashes were perfect, her lipstick still red, but she was naked, not in clothes but in truth. "Emeka, I can explain," but he was already walking out. "Behind all that beauty, you are living in debt? Wow, unbelievable," Emeka screamed. He didn't wait for an answer. He left the roses on the floor, stepped over her slippers and walked out of her life that night. Ijeoma sat on the floor of her living room and cried for the first time in years. She felt deeply ashamed because the man she loved so dearly had left her. For the first time, she saw how useless her outward beauty was. She had thought physical beauty was all she needed to keep a man, but now she realized it was not the makeup, not the lashes or the skin. It was the real her that mattered, not the one hiding behind perfume and polish. After that incident, Emeka blocked Ijeoma on all his social media platforms and there was no way she could contact him. Just like that, their wonderful and promising relationship came to an end. Ijeoma forgot about Emeka and moved on with her life, but one thing still lingered, her dating habits. She did not feel the need to make amends. Since Emeka had moved on, she felt there was no point trying to change. After all, there's no one left to please. She kept piling her dirty clothes and underwear inside her room. She hated washing her worn dresses. Instead, she would go out and buy new ones rather than wash the ones she had already worn. And this continued for months. Few weeks later, when Ijeoma thought things couldn't get worse, something happened. A young lady around 25 years old moved into the same compound where Ijeoma lived. Her name was Sabina. After Sabina moved in, she began observing Ijeoma. She admired the way Ijeoma carried herself, how neatly she dressed, how elegant she looked, and how she drove out every morning in her flashy car. Sabina was impressed. Every morning, she would stand in front of her house just to see what kind of clothes Ijeoma would wear to work. That morning, Sabina waved at her. Ijeoma responded casually and drove off. The next morning, Ijeoma was about to drive out when Sabina, already dressed for work, quickly approached her car. Ijeoma was seated in the driver's seat, and when she had a tap on the window, It was Sabina. "Hello, IJ. Please, can you give me a lift to the junction? I'm already running late for work and I thought you could help me," she said politely. But Ijoma replied coldly, "No dear, I'm not going your way," and rolled up her glass and drove away. Sabina was stunned by Ijoma's unkindness. She had genuinely tried to be friendly because she truly admired Ijoma. But Ijoma showed no interest in friendship, not because she was proud, but because she was hiding her dirty lifestyle. Unfortunately, Sabina misunderstood it. She took it as arrogance and pride. From that day, Sabina began to hate Ijoma. One Thursday evening around 6 o'clock, Sabina had been appointed by the landlord to collect money for water and utility bills. That evening, most of the tenants were back home and Sabina was going from apartment to apartment collecting the payments. Meanwhile, Ijoma had a terrible day at work and was completely exhausted. As soon as she got home, she didn't bother changing into her home clothes. She dropped her handbag on the floor, then collapsed onto the sofa and quickly fell asleep, snoring loudly with her mouth open, as if waiting for one of the cockroaches to fly into her mouth. When Sabina got to Ijoma's door, she knocked, but there was no answer. Knocked again, still no response. But Sabina was certain Ijoma was inside. Her car was parked right in front of the door and the door itself was slightly opened. Convinced, Sabina gently pushed it open. What she saw left her speechless. There was Ijoma lying on a filthy sofa, snoring loudly. The house reeked of an offensive choking odor. Cockroaches crawled freely across the walls and floors. Dirty clothes and underwears were scattered everywhere. Disposable plastic plates littered the ground. Some were covered with leftover food rotting in them. The stench was unbearable. Sabina gasped and ran out immediately, almost throwing up. She couldn't believe her eyes. Still, in shock, she came back inside, pulled out her phone and began to quietly record. Holding her nose with one hand and the phone with the other hand, she filmed Ijoma sleeping with her mouth wide open, zooming in on the filthy sofa and the mess all around. She moved into the kitchen, still recording, capturing dirty dishes and all the stocks piled around. She opened Ijoma's room and recorded more. Dirty panties and underwear scattered everywhere. It was worse than she had imagined. When she was done, she quietly slipped out of the apartment. Ijoma, a deep sleeper, never had a thing. Few days later, Ijoma was shocked at what happened. A video surfaced online. It was a video of her sleeping in her dirty living room. Ijoma was so shocked, she screamed, "Who had done this to me? How did someone enter my house?" She looked at the video closely and she knew the day she was videoed was the day she came back from work exhausted. Sabina had posted Ijoma on social media and even sold her video to some popular blogs. By 10 a.m. the next day, Ijoma's entire compound was buzzing like a beehive. Tenants, cleaners, hawkers all gathered at the gate, whispering, pointing, snickering. They weren't talking about the president or fuel price, they were talking about her. So that fine girl with wig where they shine like glass, na so she dirty rich. I swear, if you see her kitchen, you go turn your belly. The video was not even 1 minute long, but it was brutal. It showed her sink overflowing with greasy water and maggots. The girl recording even zoomed in on the cockroaches in the corner and said, "Abeg, who go marry this slave queen?" Ijoma's phone exploded with messages. Friends were forwarding the video. Some were laughing behind coded words. "Babe, isn't it not your kitchen?" with laughing emoji. Others were shocked. "Ijoma, what happened? I don't understand." But the worst message came from Emeka. He unblocked her just to send a message. "I feel sick. I should have listened to my instinct. You were just packaging nonsense. You broke me. So after that incident, I thought you would change. I was giving you time to change." As soon as Ijoma saw Emeka's message, she tried to call him but he didn't pick up. She sat on her mattress in the middle of the chaos and stared at the screen. Her eyes were red, but there were no more tears coming. Her life began to crumble in slow motion. At the office, her boss called her in for a chat. She was working as a brand ambassador for a skincare company. Looking neat and elegant was part of the job. He held up his phone and pressed play. "Is this you?" She couldn't lie. She nodded. He sighed and looked at her with a mixture of pity and disappointment. "Ijoma, I like you, but this video is everywhere. Our brand stands for cleanliness. I'm sorry, we can't afford this type of scandal." And just like that, she lost her job. Back at home, things weren't any easier. Neighbors started treating her like a leper. Children giggled and whispered, calling her Madame Daisy Slay. The children even sang a new rhyme while skipping ropes. And worst of all, her landlord sent her a quick notice because she really messed up her apartment. And the compound had become too popular. She had 30 days to pack out, but where would she go? Then came the visitor she never expected. Her door was knocked on a Thursday afternoon. She hadn't opened her curtain in 2 days. When she opened the door, she saw her mother, Ifeoma, short and tough like old bread. So now like this, you don't turn yourself to internet disgrace. Her mother backed. Ijeoma looked down, too ashamed to speak. Ifeoma didn't come to console her. She came to drag her back to Enugu. Pack your things. You don't shame us enough. You won't kill yourself because of makeup. She didn't want to return to Enugu, the town she ran away from. But after she considered how messed up her life was, she had no job, no man, no friends, and no more image to protect. She packed her bag and followed her mother back to square one. Her father didn't say a word when she walked in. He simply adjusted his radio and turned the volume up. Her old room was still there, dusty, dark, full of cobwebs and childhood regrets. For days, Ijeoma did nothing. She lay in bed thinking. No Instagram. She refused to go online that day because the jests and mockeries were too much. No mirror selfies, no false lashes, just silence. Until one day, she followed her mother to the market. She began to help her mother in her business. She had 5 customers at once, and Ijeoma instinctively helped, bagging items, collecting cash, and doing calculation in her head. An elderly woman smiled at her and said, "You are a very good child, my daughter. You dey help your mama well." Something inside Ijeoma softened. It was the first compliment she had received in weeks, and it wasn't about her looks. That night, Ijeoma changed for good. She removed the nails on her fingers. She scrubbed her old room, swept, mopped, washed the old curtains. She cleaned, not to show the world, but to heal. For the first time in years, she felt peace. She looked at her reflection in the window pane and whispered, "I don't want to be dirty again, outside or inside." And from that day onward, Ijeoma became a clean girl both inside and outside. She was no longer the filthy, dirty girl everyone knew. But when she thought her life was finally finding its rhythm, an old friend from Port Harcourt showed up at the market. Her name was Nancy, and she had a new opportunity. Nancy was now a YouTube documentary producer, and she had an idea. She wanted to interview Ijeoma for a new episode titled "The Girl Behind the Filter," a story of beauty, shame, and redemption. The episode could go viral. It would bring money, fame, and healing, but it would also open old wounds. Would Ijeoma say yes? Nancy wondered in her heart. So one fateful day, Nancy went to Ijeoma's stall. She wore dark shades, a camera bag over her shoulder. She looked up, and there she was. Ijeoma had her hair tied back, no makeup. Her wrapper was stained with pepper oil. She was slicing okra beside her mother while laughing with a customer. When Nancy pulled down her glasses, Ijeoma was surprised. "No way. Nancy, is this you?" Nancy called out, "EJ, baby." They hugged happily and exchanged pleasantries. Nancy didn't waste time. She decided to tell Ijeoma why she came. "I'm working on a documentary about fake lifestyle, plastic beauty, social media lies, and I want you in it." Ijeoma caught her breath. She swallowed hard. "You want me? To talk about what?" "Yes, your truth, your fall, your comeback. The world needs to hear it. You don't need to give me a reply now. You can think about it and call me tomorrow," Nancy said. Back at home that night, Ijeoma tossed on her mat. The ceiling fan squeaked above her. She couldn't sleep. What if the world laughs again? What if Emeka sees it? What if it ruins the small dignity she had left? But she accepted it because deep down, she knew she was tired of hiding. Her reputation was already in ruins. There was nothing more to lose because she had lost it all. Let the world say anything, because now I must show myself. I'm proud of the new me. No one is perfect and everyone has their flaws, she said to herself. That morning, in a small room, she had an interview with Nancy. Ijeoma poured out her heart and said everything she had bottled up since the time of her disgrace. The documentary went live 1 week later on YouTube. In 48 hours, it hit 1.2 million views. That was how God remembered her and her life changed. People felt pity for her, and then her Instagram DMs exploded, not with insults, but with job offers, speaking invites and partnership. But then something unexpected happened. She she got a message request from Emeka. I watched your documentary. I'm happy you are a changed person now. You are brave and I admire that part of you. Please, can we talk? Ijeoma's heart thumped like a drum. She dropped her phone, stared at the wall. After all these months, after the shame, the man who walked out of her life was asking for another chance. Ijeoma was very happy. One evening, Nancy came rushing to her shop. Girl, a talent scout from Lagos called the documentary. They want to sign you for a TV show. Ijeoma was stunned. From dating slave queen to potential TV host, everything was happening too fast, too good, too perfect. Ijeoma was so happy and excited. But life had one more twist waiting. That night, Ijeoma's younger brother Obinna called from Port Harcourt. His voice was shaky. IJ, you need to come back. Something serious had happened. What is it? Your name is at the police station. The girl who posted your kitchen video. Her mother has reported you, saying you caused her daughter mental problems. What? How? Ijeoma asked. They said ever since she posted the video, people have been bullying her online. They called her wicked and heartless for posting that, especially after you lost everything. The girl tried to take sniper. She's in the hospital now. Her mother is shouting, saying you've ruined her daughter's life. Ijeoma sighed deeply and said, well, let her keep shouting. Her daughter got what she deserved. Thanks to her, my life has changed. I'm no longer the Ijeoma they used to know. Why is this happening now, Obinna? Ijeoma finally asked. They say the girl is under psychiatric care. Her mother claimed the shame from your video drove her to attempt suicide. The next day, Ijeoma walked to the police station. An officer at the desk looked up and said sarcastically, the celebrity madam, you finally arrived. Ijeoma was led into a room where the mother of the girl who posted the video was already waiting. Her eyes were bloodshot, her face drawn with sorrow and bitterness. You, Mama Ruth shouted, you ruined my daughter's life. She posted that video as a joke and you turned the world against her. She filmed me without my permission, Ijeoma replied. She's just young. And I was broken, Ijeoma snapped. That video destroyed me. I almost drank poison too, but I chose to fight back. Silence fell. The officer stepped in. Enough. You've both hurt each other, but continuing this fight will only cause more damage. Maybe this is a test for both of you. That night, Ijeoma visited the hospital. Sabina lay weakly on her bed, her head shaved, skin pale and eyes dull. Ijeoma sat beside her and asked her, how are you feeling now? Sabina turned to her slowly. I just wanted to impress myself. I was jealous of you. I'm sorry. I didn't know it would go that far. Me too, Ijeoma said softly. I lived for attention and it nearly killed me, but it doesn't have to kill you. She reached for Sabina's hand. Let's heal together. A new show began, airing on YouTube and DSTV, with Ijeoma as the host of the TV program. When Emeka saw Ijeoma on TV, he couldn't resist the urge to talk to her. He wanted her back in his life, so he called her immediately. Ijeoma, it's me. I know, she said calmly. I wanted you to know I'm proud of you. I saw your show. Truly. And if there's ever space in your heart, Emeka, she said gently, cutting him off, I'm healing and I'm not going back to broken places. She hung up, not in anger, but in peace. Ijeoma rented a new apartment in Lagos, spacious, clean, plants by the window. A small wooden sign by the door read, beauty is not what you wear, it's who you are. Her life had changed for the better. She stood by the window, sipping tea. She looked down at the city, alive, loud, unforgiving, but full of second chances. The moral lesson of this story reminds us that we must not judge by appearance. The cleanest people outside may be drowning inside. Social media is a mask. Never envy what you don't understand. Shame isn't the end. It can be the beginning of purpose. Forgiveness for others and yourself is healing. You don't need a perfect past to inspire the future.